Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales is now streaming live on Fun Media at fun927.com and is always on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, and at tv5wrestling.com.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
Hello again, everybody. I'm not Randy Hales. I'm Michael St. John. I feel like I used to feel on Memphis Championship Wrestling when I would sub in for the legendary Lance Russell. It's that same kind of feeling. I'm subbing in tonight for the legendary Randy Hales, and thank you very much for allowing me to do so. We've got a great panel. We got a great show on tap. And let's bring in the panel right now. Let's get some first takes. Coach, you're with us from Arkansas. How's everything? And you guys have got a new head football coach, or at least a temporary head football coach that I think will become a permanent head football coach.
Yeah, I noticed Gregory White's mentioned it on here. Hi, PJ, Calvin, Greg, Thomas. Good to see everybody. Yeah, my first take has to do with college football. We fired Coach Pittman here in Arkansas and brought back Bobby Petrino, and it just proves the state of college athletics. Win at all costs, morals, values, integrity. Who cares? We want to win. You know, I mean, that's a guy can do what he did 12 years ago and recover. I wouldn't have bet anything on that. But in addition, if we'll hire John Sumrall from Tulane or Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State, we got a chance. If we go with him or somebody else, it'll be repeat of the same old thing.
You know, I learned something, Coach, over the weekend in that Arkansas, and this is, I guess, the people that keep up with this, have the lowest NIL number of money they have to deal out of any school in the Southeastern Conference. And with the folks that are in and around the University of Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas, that would have been the last thing I would have thought.
Well, there's two things. First of all, our state population is by far less. So sheer numbers. If all the graduates in 1 year from Arkansas give $100 and all the graduates from Ohio State give $100, there's millions of dollars of difference. Second of all, a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the Walton family went to Mizzou.
Whoa.
So they invest in the Mizzou program. That's why Coach Drinkwitz has those resources, and Arkansas does not. And then Mr. Tyson is a basketball guy. And the oh my goodness, the Hunt family, they're baseball. They support big baseball, so you can't have it all. And I mean, you're going to get what you pay for now until they get a salary cap and some kind of organization and structure. And that's why the Big Ten has stepped up versus SEC. Because years ago, the great athletes weren't leaving the South because of the winter. You pay them enough green, they'll come up there for the winter. Now they don't mind it. The snow got a little easier to deal with when the checks got bigger.
Hey, money talks and nobody walks, right? That's unfortunately the truth. Couldn't agree with you more. Adam Dunn is joining us today on screen. And Adam, before we get into your first take, you're showing off some new digs. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we've been talking about it for a long time. The last time I had something set up like this, I was in the old radio station bus, but things have changed. And now here in the house, I'm able to have everything set up. So this is kind of the new control room or the new production suite, I guess, for Talking Memphis Wrestling. So got some old Memphis Wrestling on the monitor over there. And believe it or not, Michael, we were talking earlier, I'll just make it big here just for a second, just to show. Over there, I've got, of course, VHS, and this tape here is on VHS. But down here, I've got Betacam SP, DVC Pro, and on the very bottom, and believe it or not, Michael, it still works, a 3/4 inch U-Matic.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This would have been really impressive 25 years ago.
Well, old school still works.
Yeah. And even got some of the old tapes and stuff over here. I don't know how I came across this one, but I've got an old 3/4 inch U-Matic from the WWF that was for Backlash in 1999.
Good gracious. Hey, that's some vintage stuff back there. You know, those U-matic tapes, I think I mentioned to you, they're probably going for more on eBay now than when you originally bought them back in the 80s and 90s. They'd have to be.
Yep. And like I said, I've got about half a dozen of them. These U-matic tapes, this would have been what the masters of CWA and early USWA. Brand new master tape, still has the label, never been used.
Now, are those? That's the 2-inch format, right? 2-inch format on there.
U-matic was 3/4 inch.
3/4 inch. Okay, there you go.
And no, I don't have any of the 2-inch, but believe it or not, when I first started working at Channel 13 in Memphis, we still had a 2-inch machine, and if you remember the vacuum cleaner, the Oric XL. It was their infomercial was on a 2-inch reel. So even me, when I was working there, I think I started there in 2005. We were still airing stuff on 2-inch reel to reel.
You had to rack it up. I love it. Well, either of you guys, I know Doc will be with us in just a little bit. He's running a little late, and Randy is actually on assignment tonight. And I got a call late in the afternoon that he had to make a trip into northern Mississippi, and well worth his while to do so, and asked me if I'd fill in. And I can assure you I can't fill his shoes. He does such a wonderful job and a great job of this show every week, but I'll do the best I can. And I got great support. But the people that supported and put this show on, hey, you guys are great, and I appreciate it. Anything on your mind wrestling wise before we get into the Memphis show?
No, just I think it's funny. I'm not a huge sports person, but I did live in Arkansas in like 2007 to 2009. And I remember we went from Houston Nutt to Bobby Petrino. Is that right, Chris? And so I remember the only time I've ever really gotten into football was during the Bobby Petrino era, the first time around in Arkansas, because it's kind of one of those things like how Memphis used to be. Everything was about the U of M Tigers. In Arkansas, they don't have any pro teams, so everything, even where I lived outside Little Rock, was all about the Razorbacks, So I mean, I even had Razorback sunglasses. I had Razorback tag on my truck and everything back then. So it's neat. I was kind of like Chris, Arkansas has always been real big on ethics and everything. So I'm kind of surprised to see Bobby Petrino back, but I'm excited because if I remember correctly, I think Arkansas was pretty good team back then.
They won double digit in wins his last 2 years there, and were set up to do so again. But
Right.
Now things have changed since then. NIL, obviously, transfer portal, and then there's a few additional teams in the Southeastern Conference that have been added that can really play.
Okay.
And Michael's alma mater is actually good now. They were terrible back then. Missouri's actually good now. They were terrible back then. So, I mean, I coached for 21 years. You're only as good as your talent relative to the people you play against. And it don't matter who's coaching. I always say this. Nick Saban was 6-6 at Michigan State, folks.
Right.
He's the greatest college football coach of all time. And the reason is he wasn't dumb at Michigan State. He didn't have any dudes.
It's all about, I've always heard the term from coaches, and it's coach speak, I know, but it actually is true. It's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. And I think that really plays true, that, and not to get too far away. And Adam, from what you said, the one thing you didn't have when you were an Arkansas Razorback fan is, didn't you have one of them caps and hats, those plastic hats that they wear that look like a hog? I mean, I love to go to a game.
I never owned one, but yeah, I think they did have them. And to your point, Chris, I was trying to remember his name the other day. They had a really good star player that went pro that was on that team back then. I can't remember what his name was.
You talking about Ryan Mallett, the quarterback?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he passed away about a year and a half ago. He drowned at the beach.
Oh, wow.
And he was just voted into the Hall of Honor. His mom accepted this past weekend on his behalf. Yeah, he was a great talent.
Yeah, and just that was kind of to your point. You had a good coach there, but you had tremendous talent there at the time also.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah.
Well, the big news in Alabama, and we'll get off of this real quick, is that there is rumor, I don't know how true it is, or it's just him rattling the saber, that Paul Feinbaum is going to run for Senate down here. Now, Paul Feinbaum had his radio career, and I was part of when he began his radio career at ERC in Birmingham at WERC. I was the operations manager, and he was at the Birmingham Post-Herald, and he was a little skinny guy like me, and a really good guy, really smart guy. But, the thing about it is half the people love Paul Feinbaum. The other people hate Paul Feinbaum. Tommy Tuberville doesn't have to worry about that. Coach Saban doesn't have to worry about that. Right. So it's going to be interesting if that's reality or if that's just him rattling his sabers for money purposes. But we'll find out.
Hey, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Paul, wasn't he born or isn't he from Memphis?
I think he was born in Memphis. I know he came to Birmingham from Knoxville. He was the beat reporter for the Knoxville News Sentinel for the Volunteers. So, but it's interesting.
And by the way, Michael, Frank Seaton says that was called a hog hat.
The hog hat. There you go. Oh, man. Wrestling wise, getting into what we're going to be getting into, some of the biggest title matches Jerry the King Lawler was with the former NWA or the current NWA at the time, World Heavyweight Championships. And two of these matches that we're going to showcase is Lawler and Jack Brisco. And another match we're going to see is Handsome Harley Race and Jerry the King Lawler. I think one of the Brisco matches in 74, Brisco had the belt and Lawler was the challenger. The second Brisco match, I don't think he had the title because it was after Jerry broke his leg and came back. And then the Harley Race matches, in my opinion, and Jerry was in with some fantastic matches, but without a doubt have to be top 3, top 5 all time in Jerry Lawler championship matches. Coach, you've seen these things. What do you think?
Well, as I mentioned 2 or 3 weeks ago, I don't remember if you were on that show or not, but my first time to go to the Coliseum was on September 12th of 74 when Lawler wrestled Brisco for the world title. That was my first chance to ever get to do that. And then, Harley Race is, if you looked up a picture of a wrestler in the dictionary, it'd be Harley Race because not only could he work, but he could whip your butt. Like, he was tough. And all the guys talk about, like, Harley was the real deal. And he looked like the real deal, and you believed him. And he didn't have to yell and scream and do all that. And he was, to think about how many times he did the flying headbutt off the top rope and bang it. And nothing fazed him. Bad car accidents, whatever. So for Lawler to work with him, and for what I've heard Harley speak on some old shoot interviews. He wasn't a big fan of Lawler and Jerry Jarrett and how Jerry pushed Jerry Lawler so much. He really didn't care for that.
Well, and the ironic part of that is when TNA opened, and their first show was here in Huntsville back in 2001, 2002 at the Von Braun Center. Guess who one of the people that they brought in to showcase for credibility's sake? None other than Handsome Harley Race. And so either Jerry brought out the pocketbook and got Harley to come over, or maybe some of those things got amended during that period of time. But you talk about two wrestlers that epitomize in our lifetime champion wrestlers, world champions. And I think you could point to Jerry or to Jack Brisco and or Harley Race in the same sentence. And you can add a few names with it, but they carried that strap. That, what is it? Was it the 14 or 16 pounds of gold?
Yeah.
They carried that with high dignity, and I never have heard a negative remark about either one of those guys and the way they worked in the ring and the way they talked. Of course, I thought Harley was a better promo than Brisco, but Brisco could hold his own. He was just a little bit more laid back, a little bit more of that Oklahoma amateur style, where Harley Race. When you saw Harley on the card, you were going to get your money's worth, no doubt about it.
No question. And Jack Brisco was a great worker. I feel fortunate that I lived in the era of what I call the real world champions. Briscoes, or Jack Brisco, Terry Funk, Dory Funk, Harley. And then you got to give Flair credit. He was the last one. He was the last true traveling world champion. And to maintain that schedule and just maintain your sanity, working and flying and doing all the things they did, it says a lot for all of those guys that they can carry that and go to every territory and make the top guy in that territory looked like the top guy every single night, and oftentimes didn't meet them didn't talk to them till they got in the ring, because they were flying in from somewhere, run in, get changed, go to the ring, and we'll call it in the ring. Amazing talent.
And they did a lot of shining back then. And you look back, I started watching professional wrestling when Luthez, in the very late stages of his championship career. I've seen a lot of film on Buddy Rogers, never saw him in person. Pat O'Connor, who I met when actually he was in a nursing home. But the thing about the wrestlers back then is they held, and I think you hit on it, Coach, they held the world championship to the highest standards. And if there's one thing that I don't like about current wrestling is, number one, there are too many world champions for use whatever adjective in front of a world champion you want to, but there are so many of them. And the belts are, they're flamboyant, but they don't have that integrity. They don't have that history. They don't have, I can remember the first time I held the World Heavyweight Champion, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship belt in my hands. Number one, I had chill bumps. And number two, I was shaking like a leaf because I was holding history. And in this day and time, today's world champion is tomorrow's not world champion. And I don't know, the world has changed, I guess, in that regard. And then when you've got the champion, you got the NW, or you got the WWE champion, then you got the WWE world champion, and they collide, and they're in Australia, but they're fighting for something that is in the Middle East. It just loses me. But we got a couple of things. In fact, Adam, if you want to chime in here, you've got a couple of videos that we're going to show right now to sort of explain or show to the people what Coach and you and I are talking about.
Yeah, we got on the rundown here. It looks like Lawler world title matches. We have Brisco versus Lawler. It's about a 16-minute video that we can show that whenever you like.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and roll that? And we've been talking about the world champions. Let's look at the world heavyweight champion, 1974 circa. Jerry the King Lawler had been building up to get a match with the world champion, Jack Brisco.
I remember right, they called this the home, something like that in those days. Because Lawler beat a lot of top guys on the way to this match.
Love the old spotlight matches at the Mid-South Coliseum. That was a very special effect back then.
You know who that is?
Hear those boos? I think they were into it. Legendary Sam Bass.
Yeah, and Sam accompanying Lawler. And I guess this was during Lawler's heel run that this came about. So I guess Brisco did get the cheers. Love it when they had a championship match. The promoter would want you to wear a tuxedo if you were doing the announcing. Absolutely. Another little touch that was just added to the integrity and the pageantry of a world title match.
September 16th
earlier about
September
Arkansas
16th, 1974. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's 74, September 12th. I was in the stands at this match. But Adam mentioned earlier about Arkansas not having pro sports teams. Memphis didn't either, and we got Memphis TV. So the reason the wrestlers were so big in Memphis, they were the pro athletes. You didn't get the Cowboys every week or the Chiefs every week. You got wrestling every Saturday. These were the pro athletes we looked up to.
That's a very good point, Coach. And what's odd about that is a year or two before this, I guess in 74 it actually started, the World Football League put a team in Memphis and put a team in Birmingham, and they were the two biggest draws of that professional football league. Those two cities, the Memphis Showboats and the Birmingham Americans, were the two biggest draws.
You know, it didn't sound like it to me, but I believe that's Lance doing the ring announcing, isn't it?
It is Lance.
It is Lance in a tuxedo, and then that's Jerry Brisco in Jack Brisco's corner.
Frank Steaton's asking how big the crowd was. If the notes are correct, it was 10,125.
As an 8-year-old kid, I would have told you it was a bunch.
A whole bunch.
The most people I'd ever seen in my life, I promise you. The most people I'd ever seen. I was in awe.
That wide shot there confirms it. I don't see an empty seat.
Coach, where were you sitting?
Right now.
We were sitting up here right under this camera.
In the Mid-South,
because that's the angle you always got on Saturday morning.
Right.
On the highlights. So I wanted to see it like I was used to seeing it.
I love it.
We were in the, now, we weren't down in the high dollar seats down at ringside. We were up. We weren't in the cheapest ones. We were in the middle. I think the ticket price was like $4 back then, which would be probably $20 nowadays.
Instructs Sam Bass, manager of
And again, Tommy Marlin is the referee. That's Eddie Marlin's brother. And at this point, I think he had just been elected the tax commissioner or the tax collector for Sumner County, Tennessee, from where they lived in Gallatin and Hendersonville.
I was through Michael Lance dubbed this commentary in later.
Brisco goes after him in a hurry.
Yeah, this is, I think he may have done this after the show, because it doesn't sound like a typical Lance at ringside commentary.
Right.
No,
Jack Brisco.
Fan noise isn't in conjunction with his audio.
Chases Lawler right out of the ring and begs him to come back in and take some
Timeline-wise, I would say this was probably shot by Mike Shields.
You know, just look at the moves of Brisco earlier with those hip tosses, now with those. I mean, amazing how Brisco, and look, the athletes you see today are a lot more jacked up than these two guys are, but for the time and place, these guys were extremely great conditioned athletes.
Well, there's the physique and being jacked up and looking like it, and then there's people that are professional and actually know how to. I believe just by looking at these. Frank Seaton says he offends Brisco called the match. Would this have been one of Brisco's first times in Memphis?
I want to say maybe second time for some reason. I want to say he may have been there a year or two earlier, but it was very early. I'm trying to think when Brisco won the title. I want to say this may have been his second time in Memphis, but this is, of course, his first time against Jerry.
Yeah, I would say just like we watched the other week when he was going against Bockwinkel, we can probably tell by the style of the match.
I'm looking at when Jack Brisco was world champion.
Pours the heat on his brash challenger tonight. The crowd, a mixed reaction to Lawler.
Lance sounds like a baseball.
That's the way it has always been.
He won it in July of '73, and he held it to December of '75.
So he would have had it about a year at July '73 to September '74.
Yeah, a little over a year, about 14 months.
And normally this was part of the Nick Goulas, Roy Welch territory back then. So at this particular point in time, and back then Nick would get a guarantee on the world champion 1 week out of every year. He had the champion come to the territory, and that was an agreement he had with Sam Munchnick and the NWA.
I would say the pace of this match so far looks very Brisco.
And now Lawler to his feet.
Yeah, I would say Brisco called it because Lawler was only 23 years old in '74.
Lawler fans come to their
I doubt he had the stroke to call it then. But like we saw last week, Adam, the first match with Nick called it. That next match, Lawler called it. It was a whole different match.
Ironically, when you look at the wide shot, there's no ring skirt on this ring, and the steps are made out of wood. Can you imagine taking the steps made out of wood comparing to the steps what they're made out of now and taking a bump on those?
Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but the Mid-South Coliseum, the Louisville Gardens, and I believe Evansville, the building all had their own ring.
and slams Brisco into the canvas.
I didn't get to the last of what you said.
I'll say it. I believe the Mid-South Coliseum, Louisville Gardens, and the Evansville Coliseum, each of those venues had their own wrestling ring.
That is correct. That is correct.
They didn't have to take it to the building, so that would be the Mid-South Coliseum ring.
So Michael Frank said, so Brisco worked out of St. Louis to the other territories. You want to explain how that worked, Michael?
Well, the NWA, the agreement with the NWA was that that Sam Munchnick had the booking on the world champion, and they booked out of St. Louis. I don't know if Jerry or Jack rather was living in St. Louis at this point, or was just commuting out of Oklahoma. But they would work with the promoters. And remember, you had 28 territories, and every promoter that was a paying member of the NWA would get the champion for up to a week to work their territory. And so that's why the world champion would work probably 300 days out of a year working. And some territories didn't have Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday towns. So he might work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or something of that nature. And but every territory, every promoter that was a subscriber and a member of the National Wrestling Alliance had access to the world champion if he wanted him for up to a week in his unique territory.
You know, you could tell Lawler had heat with the fans, because when Brisco run him, took him down hard right there, all the fans cheered. Even though he was a hometown boy and young and up and coming, they disliked him so much they're cheering against him, which, as we all know, changed in the later years.
You know what's funny, back in those days too, if you look back at where the championship, where the world championship changed hands, you'd see a lot of St. Louis, Chicago, Kansas City. You wouldn't see them change hands. You wouldn't see them flip the title or change the belt in unique cities unless it was a quick turn where they'd put it on somebody for 3 or 4 days and then put it back in a return match in the same territory. And I don't think that the promoters in the territory could determine that. That was something that the NWA office and Sam Munchnick would have to determine if they were going to do a quick turn to maybe give the world champion a few days off or whatever the case may be.
Like when Tommy Rich won the title for a week, that was during the time of the battle between Ann Gunkel and Barnett. I've not ever researched that, but I've heard that was part of that deal.
I have heard that as well, Coach, and I believe that to be true.
Michael, we got a question from there on YouTube. It said, didn't the Briscoes work a lot out of Florida during this time period?
Yeah, they did. They were working for Eddie Graham and for the Florida territory quite a bit. But for the most part, I think they were living. I think in the early parts of the 70s, they were still living and headquartering out of Oklahoma, but they would go into Florida for extended periods of time.
And Chris, Richard Hood saying that Tommy had the belt for 4 days.
Yeah, I was just using it as a figure of speech. I knew he had it 4 days, but then a week window.
Yeah. Says keep your hands out of his hair.
Frank Seaton says, in St. Louis, if you won the Missouri heavyweight title, you were in line to wrestle for the NWA title.
Absolutely, that's a true statement. And of course, Harley Race was the Missouri heavyweight champion before he became the world heavyweight champion.
Well, every territory was pretty much that way.
Yeah.
And Memphis was Southern Belt. Florida was also the Southern Belt. They had their version. And then Dallas, Walt's territory was North American heavyweight champion. That put you in line.
And Lawler.
Yeah, you would normally come into a territory and work the number one baby face, but this is a situation where you're working the number one heel.
After the long duration of that
reverse
face falls forward on his face. Sam Bass trying to tell Jerry to get up, and brother Jerry Brisco telling Jack, get to your feet. He got there momentarily.
You may be right. I just had heard that.
Counting.
I had not researched it. I just heard that.
It's a count of
You know,
10.
I'm watching Tommy Marlin in this situation. This is the first opportunity we've really had a chance to pay attention to Tommy Marlin. Notice how he stays far out of the camera and away from the action. He's just there to observe, and then when he comes in, he's there for a purpose, like that count.
Being really cheered on by brother
Saying
Jerry Brisco.
he's there to be the referee and not the
Jerry
star.
Brisco felt the lash of that severe right hand of Lawler's, and Lawler defeated Jerry. Ooh, and Lawler down on the deck, but his legs are draped over the rope.
That's
and
another
the
thing
referee
that gives credibility to the
Jack Brisco
importance
to
of
back
this
up.
match, because Tommy Marlin
Lawler
did
has
not
a 10
referee.
count.
Yeah, he was special referee for this match.
He was a special referee,
Wrestling action.
and he didn't look like Bill Mack in
Here
the striped
comes
shirt. He
champion
wore the
Jack
white
Brisco.
shirt with the
Lawler
collar.
falls into the
He
corner.
gave a different
He
presentation
turned
of
when
the
referee was
importance of the
talking
match.
to him.
And he almost
Lawler
looked
took
more like
that
a boxing
moment to kick
referee.
him in the
Yeah,
midsection.
you took the words out of my mouth.
Exactly. You're reading my mind as well. It's almost like a boxing
Lawler
championship
unrelenting
match.
with the top part of that arm as he has so many.
Because boxing in the
of his previous
70s was
opponents.
huge.
One could be a new champion too.
Huge in the 70s. I can name more fighters from the
Jerry
70s
Lawler
than I
within
can from the
one
last
count
40
of
years.
being the world's heavyweight
Boxing.
champion, but Jack
I have a
Brisco
problem
TV
naming.
every week.
hasn't
It was a big
retained that
deal.
title without desire.
I have a problem naming a champion in the boxing world today to begin with. I don't know who's got the belt.
Lawler
Yeah.
gets a count of 1. Count
Much
of 2.
after Mike Tyson
And once
and
again,
those
Jack
guys, I don't know.
Brisco, everything left in him. From somewhere he calls on it and kicks his
Notice
way
the
out
deliberate
of
count.
a pin by Jerry
1,
Lawler. Sam Bass
2,
hollering at his
3.
boy,
Before you're going to flip a
finish it.
title, you're going to make sure that the guy is
Lawler
is out,
drops,
for
goes
sure.
For another cover. 1.
Deliberate, no question.
Brisco this time with a
Clean
knee to
win.
Lawler's head. Breaks up the count at 1.5.
This is the first time I've ever noticed Tommy reminded me of Eddie at
Jack
all.
Brisco
Having the same
trying to get back to
build
his
and
feet.
look.
Yes, the way he's walking, the way he looks from the side,
Yep.
he reminds me of Eddie. I've
Lawler
never
lifted
thought that
high in
before
the
right
air, but
now.
Brisco without the strength to take him over.
He's a lot
Falls
smaller
himself,
around the
and the referee
waistband than
starts
he
the
was
count.
when I got to know him in
Sam
'78.
Could be it.
That may have
He's
been
got his
true
arm
for
on him,
Eddie
but Lawler
also.
is able to move it off. Both of these wrestlers
Look at Sam.
completely exhausted. 15-minute
We got about
call.
less
A
than 2 minutes
15-minute
left here.
call.
You know, when you
45 minutes
when you
to
watch
wrestle.
this match, one of the things, Coach and Adam, that is obvious to me is how deliberate everything is.
Ooh,
So I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a
Jerry
Brisco
Lawler,
called match.
Jack Brisco.
yeah,
because
I would say
Neither
100%.
one of
The
them
pace of the match, the deliberation in the match is a lot more
considered to be in
emphatic than
shape
you would see in a
to finish
normal
the
Jerry
other
Lawler
right at the moment.
championship
Brisco
match.
went for
I
a
haven't
step
seen
over to
Lawler
him.
getting pushed
Looked
into the
like he
ref
may have
yet,
been
so I don't
going
think it's
for
a Lawler
deadlock.
match.
Lawler kicks him out of it.
If that happens, we'll know.
Straight up in the air, Brisco drops
Yeah.
Lawler down on Lawler's knee. He
I've got about a
springs
minute
in
left, so we'll see what happens there.
with the leg lever. Jack
Tell you the truth, I
Brisco
just watched this in
springs
the
it
last
in.
2 weeks.
And the champion regaining his strength now. Steps it over. Lawler once again kicks his way
There it
out
is.
and down
There we
to the
go.
referee.
There's your
Lawler.
bump into the referee. Here comes the
Tommy
fire.
Marlin flat
Yeah.
on his back.
So
Jack
a Lawler
Brisco
finish, a
with his
Brisco
brother
match.
hollering, "Get up, Jack, get up." Jerry Lawler in the center of the ring. Standing upright. Nails Jack Brisco
Nuts.
with that vicious right hand. Goes for the cover, and here's referee Tommy Marlin. 1, 2, this could be it. 3, the new world's heavyweight champion, Jerry
Sam almost tipped it
Lawler.
off. Hell, he was in the ring at the 2 count.
And Lawler
There he is. He stooges him off. Jerry Brisco jumps in there, grabs the hand. Lawler drops the knucks. And here we go with a controversial finish. And as a result, Lawler does not win the belt and then does not really face Jack Brisco again in Memphis until 1982.
If I'm looking at this right, Michael, it looks like that night opening action was Goulas versus Lancaster, which I assume was the boy.
George.
Robert Fuller against Dennis Hall. Lou Thez against Don Green. Fargo and Tojo were in action, and Al and Phil Hickerson, I'd imagine, going against Eddie Marlin and Tommy Gilbert. And then that main event was Lawler and Brisco, drawing 10,125 at the Coliseum in September of 1974.
That's a good undercard. When you look at that, there's some good talent there. I would have loved to watch. Now, Thez and Don Green were both by this time in their 60s, I think, and that may have been a slowdown kind of match. But Fargo and Tojo tagging together, that's now he's got the initials BH here. I'm trying to figure out who BH is. Blonde. It's not the Blonde Bombers. Anyway, we'll have to figure that out. Well, on September 16th, 1974, 10,125 fans, one of which was the coach in-house to see a tremendous match between the King, Jerry Lawler, and Jack Brisco, the world heavyweight champion, and a controversial finish that was overturned. So that was a pretty great way to start a show tonight for sure.
So that was actually on the 12th.
Oh, was it the 12th?
Yeah,
Okay.
Because the Nashville matches are on the 16th on a Saturday, right? Or maybe a Friday or Saturday. But I know it was on the 12th because, like I said, I was there.
The Nashville matches during that period of time actually were on Wednesday night at the Fairgrounds Arena.
So I'm trying to figure out how that's on the 16th. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
yeah, that's got to be a misprint because the Saturdays were reserved for TV shows. And they had 4 of them in the territory going live back then, and so the boys were on the road to the TV to do TV on Saturday. But that was pretty incredible, pretty incredible match. A lot just watching Lawler and watching Brisco. You see a lot of Lawler style then that you saw later in life, but I think you saw what was Jack Brisco then was Jack Brisco for his entire career. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that he was an amateur and a champion out of the University of Oklahoma.
One of the weirdest things I ever saw, Jack Brisco, he worked heel in Mid-Atlantic. If you've ever seen the old video, like I've watched some Mid-Atlantic because I never got to watch it when I was younger, and Jack Brisco and Jerry turned heel, it was weird. I mean, it was just strange. Like, that don't even make sense. Like, how's a truly amateur wrestler, that's his whole shtick, so to speak, his gimmick is being an amateur wrestler, and then he's a heel. It made no sense to me, but whatever.
Yeah. The only other person I can think of right off the top of my head that was an amateur wrestler that turned pro and was heel at one time would be maybe Curt Angle would be one of the only other ones I could think of that ever went that route. That was an amazing, 1996 Olympic gold medal winner, and to then have the run that he had. And not only did he have that great run in WWF, but also in TNA with some of his craziest stuff that I think he did.
It's ironic you bring up Angle because I'm like you, Adam and Coach. I'm sure you'll agree. It is the antichrist, the antithesis of the fact that the Briscoes could be heels. I mean, how would people buy that? I don't see that being bought by the fans. Angle, though, never got over as a babyface that big, so it made sense for him to go heel.
Well, there was even that cockiness where he's like, "I was your Olympic champion." He kind of did it that way, and because they even tried, when he first came to Power Pro, he was actually a big Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, and what's funny, I think in his debut match on Power Pro, he's even wearing a vest very much like Steve Austin's vest. But, you try to imagine Curt Angle wearing a vest like that now, it's impossible. And yeah, he tried to be a baby face in Power Pro. And if you watch some of his first interviews, and even just how he naturally talks, the fans weren't buying it even then. And so because I think that was the thing that Vince wanted with Curt was like, this American baby face, your Olympic hero, blah, blah, blah. But it just came off in like an arrogant kind of way. And so I think they went with it, and look where he's able to go,
Coach, how would you rank that match in the Lawler legacy? How would you rank that match? And of course, young in his career with Jerry Brisco.
Well, I don't know that I'd rank it as top 10 matches, but I'd rank it as one of the most significant from the standpoint he's 23 and he's wrestling the world champion in front of a sold-out arena. So that tells you that he's about to have a run in a career like he's going to be able to repeat that. Like this isn't a one-off. You're going to be able to bring the world champion back and draw again and again and again, or take him to other parts of the territory and do the same. Now, I will say that I saw Lawler in Georgia, and it wasn't the same. Saw him in Florida, wasn't the same. But in our home area, he could sell out with whatever world champion. They're all going to make money, no matter, as long as it was in our region of the country.
You know, and I've heard Lawler say that, you know, when he first started, he started wrestling some of those like outlaw shows, like over in West Memphis. What was that guy's name? Aubrey Griffith or something like that was the promoter over there. And Jackie Fargo and the guys actually got mad at him for doing that. And so eventually, I believe they sent him down to Alabama, and he worked there. And that's where he met guys like Sam Bass and all that. And really, had he never gone there, it would have never put everything together for him to come and do what he did in Memphis. So he actually credits a lot of his time in Alabama to then what he brought to Memphis and was able to do.
When he came to Alabama, you know, that was the beauty of having two sides of a territory. The territory was so big geographically and had towns that drew on a weekly basis. You could exile, if you would, somebody to Birmingham to cut their teeth and then bring him back. But the other place they sent him, you know, and there was a great working relationship back with really it was with Roy Welch and then the Fullers and everybody over in Knoxville. And they sent Lawler over to Knoxville. And he really became the evil heel, if you would, when he was over in that area. Was that Joe Costanza that was running Knoxville at the time? I forget who was running. I'm sure that Bo James could fill us in.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if Bo James was here, he could probably definitely fill us in on that. Richard Hood pointing out that Bob Root was also a great amateur that was heel. So,
he definitely was. He definitely was. His Mid-South stuff, I really liked Bob Root.
He did a stint in Knoxville as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was part of
wasn't he part of that battle for Knoxville thing where they did like that shoot video about stuff? Yeah. I think you're right, Michael.
Yeah, and then later he was a matchmaker and all that good stuff. All right, I guess we're to a point now. We're at 7:41 Central Time on this program. Again, our leader, Randy Hales, got called out on a mission, if you would, at the last minute, and sort of laid it in our laps to do this show. So the three of us are having some fun. Hopefully we'll get Doc on here in a few. We miss Pat Trammell. He's on a road trip, but Pat, hope you're doing well. Let's look at some photos of the week. And I know you've got a whole lineup of them.
I do. And bear with me, because Randy usually calls them out by their file number, because the preview I have of them is incredibly small. So if I pull up the wrong ones at first, I'm sorry. But once we get going with them, they should be the right ones. What's the first one that you have on the list there, Michael?
I have 4618.
Okay, so you've got the numbers. Awesome. All right, there we go. Well, that looks like, I would guess that is 1994 Monday Night Memories, and that's Don and Al Green.
It is. In their older years. And
I think that's Sputnik to the far left there.
You're probably right. I can't make that out, but yeah, that's definitely Don Green in the middle, Al Green to his left, and two legendary wrestlers, sort of making again, we've talked often about the old days and the territory being a tag team oriented territory. And here's a tag team that really set that in cement.
Yeah, I believe that night, Don and Al Green both went in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. And Phil Hickerson said, "Lean, mean, hungry Al Green."
Hungry. All right, let's go to this is a shot of photo number 4619. And this is an interesting slide.
Ooh, the price.
Coach, can you make this out?
Yeah, the Mania 42 two-day ticket prices.
That's coming up in April.
That's
and Can you look at those prices?
Yes. Section A1 on the floors, right at $9,000,
Nice.
$8,998. Section B on the floor is $3,800. Section R101 is $2,200. Unbelievable. The 400 section, which I guess like you'll have to have your phone to stream it from there, is $854.15. Is this going on at the Raiders, where the Raiders play?
Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Yes.
So the 400 section, I don't know how far away it is, but that is
probably 400 rows away. Jeez.
You can wave at airplanes that are coming into McCarran Airport from there. Just give them a wave because they're going to see you before you see the matches. When you see these prices, and I heard this being talked about the other day, there is a ultimate experience where you've got a VIP pass to and the events start on Monday and run right through the Sunday, the following Sunday. And there's a VIP. You get to be in the press conference. You get to go to the cocktail parties or the meet and greets with the wrestlers and autograph sessions and all. And a single ticket for that, they were talking about on one of the wrestling channels the other day I was listening to, is $80,000. Now, I'm not a man of great means, but I have problems. In fact, I was pricing tickets to Alabama Vanderbilt because that's my alma mater and they're playing in Tuscaloosa, which I don't like to go to. I'd probably rather have an enema than go to Tuscaloosa to watch a game. That's how bad it is down there. But the price, the cheapest price, and the tickets are in the upper deck, and I don't sit upper deck. I don't like to walk up steps for 45 minutes or walk up ramps for 45 minutes and walk them down. Missed 100,000 people. And the cheapest ticket right now online is $286. And I'm sorry, and I'm a Vanderbilt graduate, but I ain't paying $256 to see Vanderbilt play in Tuscaloosa. And I can't, it makes me wonder when these prices show up, where in the heck are people getting that kind of money? And this thing is going to sell out. Something is not computing in my mind.
Because you got to think, for the 400 section, say you're somewhat local, but for the 400 section, for one ticket, that's $1,000 ordeal.
Oh, after you put your parking in your goodies or your gimmicks and your food, that's going to be more than that.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be $1,200-$1,500 just to say that you were there.
And you're not going to go alone unless you're just a person that goes to things alone.
Right. So even if for, I would say, two people to go, it's going to be a $2,000 ordeal.
Coach, what is the most money you've ever paid for a ticket? Do you mind me asking?
Well, I'm actually going to KU for the first time, and it's like $395 a seat for me to go to KU. I'm a big KU basketball fan. The original rules of basketball are there in the lobby, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So that's the most I will have ever paid. The other most I've ever paid is my wife loves Alan Jackson, and his farewell tour, I paid right at $300 a seat to go to Fayetteville to sit where she wanted to sit to see Alan for the last time. So that's the most. But now this right here, I wouldn't pay $800. There's not a soul I can think of I'd pay $800 to see.
Frank Seaton says he saw Hogan in Jonesboro for $6 in 1970.
I saw him for less than that because I had worse seats than Frank. So
that is amazing. $80,000 for that. That is amazing. The most I've ever paid was an Alabama football game for the national championship in Miami. I had to speak at a funeral. The next day was the game. I had to speak at a funeral in Tampa. And the next day, my wife and I, Melanie and I, went down, and they were $800 a ticket at Hard Rock Stadium, but we had great seats. I mean, they were, this was 12 years ago, 13 years ago. We had great seats, for that, but they were still $800. But, for, like you said, Coach, if you're, or Adam, if you're living in Vegas and just want to go to the show and just to be in the building, you're going to spend $1,000. I can't see that.
Right.
No. And then like living here, it's cheap to fly to Vegas, relatively. but you're going to have a hotel. You got to fly there. You got to Uber. Or you got to pay for parking, whatever. I mean, you're looking at for a couple to go, you're looking at $3,000.
Yeah, because
to sit in Frank, I think Frank said 400 sections in Reno.
Yeah, right. And you know, if you go, you're going to do Vegas stuff. You're going to go to the casinos. You're going to find some food to eat. So I mean, that's going to be an expensive trip. And like I said, you know, maybe people take cruises that cost that much and stuff. Now the $80,000, I find that hard to believe that a few people would buy that. Like you said, it's going to be sold out.
There's people that have bought islands for less than that.
Right. I wouldn't pay that much for a truck. Much less to go.
If I had 80,000 just sitting around to blow, I'd buy me a King Ranch truck like I want. But that's why I don't have a King Ranch truck, because I can't afford it.
Right.
I don't know what 80,000 looks like in person. I don't know about you guys, but I'd love to see it in person. I'd love to have the ability to pay $80,000 for something. Right. That would be cool. All right, let's go. Let's go to the next picture here.
What's our number on that one, Michael?
Okay. The next picture is number 4623.
Okay. I'll say real quick, I would almost want to compare that to Super Bowl prices.
I'm thinking Super Bowl prices may be less.
That's what I'm thinking. Wow.
Andre the Giant next to a Lincoln Continental and a Gray Line tour bus. Look at the size of that man.
That forefront shot. Wow.
He's a huge individual.
I had a chance to meet him. I had a chance for him to ride in my car, and my car was almost that size. It was a Crown Vic, Ford Crown Vic that my brother-in-law sold me. And he took when he got in the car at the Nashville airport, he took the seat back and laid it as far back as he would go, and lowered the seat for as low as it could go. And bless his heart, he was still folded in there in half. And thank God it was only a 10-minute ride to the Fairgrounds Arena. Big man.
I bet the poor air ride suspension was begging for help after that.
I wonder, and I know he flew, and I think part of the deal was he was flown first class, more so I think because of his size and his stature, not his notoriety. But can you imagine sitting next to Andre the Giant on an airplane flying somewhere? I think I'd be praying that the plane got off the ground.
Right. Frank says he saw him in Memphis, and he was the biggest person he'd ever seen. I'm sure that's probably true for almost anyone that ever saw him.
I'll have to dig up the picture of my son in his arms and holding with Nick Goulis, and he's in Andre's arms. Chris looks like he's about an inch tall. It's funny.
There's a picture of him and Eddie Marlin together somewhere, and Eddie looks tiny.
Wow. All right, our next picture is picture number 4625, and that should be easy.
That's a very young, beautiful Bobby.
That is very young, and I'm trying to see what belt he has on his waist. I don't recognize that as one of the belts that was procured or used in the territory. I'm looking to see that may be something out of maybe the New Orleans or that area, perhaps.
What would you say? He's probably early 20s there?
Yes.
What about the little Mississippi territory there was back then, Michael?
That could be it, Coach.
I don't remember the name of it, but there was a small territory like Jackson area.
That pink robe with the gold fringe on it there.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Beautiful Bobby Eaton. What a wrestler. What a wrestler. All right, our next picture is 4626. And any choice on this, Coach?
Oh, yeah, I know who these are. And sadly, they perished with Sam. The dominoes were with Sam in the car when he crashed on his way home from Memphis.
Frank Lopez and Frank Hester, is that right?
Yeah, dominoes. Yes, sir.
Pepe and Frank. And that's with J.C. Dykes was their manager back then. He looked different from when I met him, but the dominoes.
I almost didn't recognize him. And then they got some NWA tag title belts there.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if those are the ones that were the original belts or not, but wearing the NWA tag team titles.
They look like they have little nameplates on them right there towards the bottom.
They do. And I'm trying to make out what the bottom inscription, just the very bottom inscription says champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yep. So those may be the, at one point, the NWA World Tag Team Championship belts.
Yeah.
The next photo we have is photo 4627. Oh, my Lord. Is that Taylor Swift that he's signing an autograph for? Just asking. Look at this with the fringe and the cowboy jacket. Anybody have an idea who this might be?
Almost looks like they're in somebody's living room.
It does. Maybe it's in the dungeon of the Hearts, Stu Hart's dungeon. Ladies and
like
gentlemen,
his dad there, Michael.
He does.
He looks like his dad more than Dory Jr. does.
Indeed. That is Terry Funk.
Wow.
At a very young age. I think he's missing a tooth there, I believe it or not.
It almost looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Michael, you made a joke about Taylor Swift. I guess I wonder if the people know the connection to wrestling that Taylor Swift has.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's come out again often or just recently.
Yeah, Double J's children were
babysitter.
She was their babysitter.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift was Double J's babysitter.
That's amazing. That is, and of course, she lived in Hendersonville and went to school there and was working on her music career prior to hitting it big. So you just never know. Great shot though of Terry Funk. I'd love to know. That looks like somebody just took that on their own personal camera, and there you have it. The late great Terry Funk. Okay, let's go to picture number 4622.
Well, if we can't guess that one, we can't read.
Herb Lester and Roy Welch of the legendary and influential Welch Fuller family in 1950.
Wow.
Michael, you know much more about this than me, but I've heard it said they are the godfathers of Southern wrestling. Like these three men are the ones who pretty much invented and controlled Southern wrestling.
Well, in our part of the South, that is absolutely the truth. And I know Bo James, our good friend, is on a mission to get them elected into the Hall of Fame that's in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame out of Dubuque. I believe it's Dubuque, Iowa. And that the Luthez, I forget the other gentleman's name that's attached to that. But I think it would be absolutely tantamount. If you've got a Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and you want to look back at history as to who formed the groundwork and the foundation of what we know and love, even to this day, I think you have to look at the Welch family. And of course, Herb and Lester Welch were a fabulous tag team in the 50s and early 60s. And of course, Roy Welch wrestled, I think he started back in the 30s and became the legendary promoter. Of course, Nick Goulas was the barker, if you would, but the guy behind the matches and the guy behind the talent for most of that whole run was Roy Welch. I think they're not in every Hall of Fame they should be.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's a great, interesting picture. It was taken in somebody's driveway, it looks like.
Yeah, 1950. Wow.
Yep. And we got one last photo that is 4638, and it too is there you go, remembering Roy Welch is wrestling the bear there.
Is that Ginger?
And double cauliflowered ears. And there he is as a wrestler, and there he is as a promoter.
Yeah.
Wow, he passed 48 years ago this week.
Yep, 48 years ago.
Yeah, just a few days ago. Wow.
Yep, born in 1901. So the legendary Roy Welch.
So he lived just long enough to see wrestling go to Channel 5.
That's a good point.
Wow.
That's a good point. But he was in a nursing home when all that occurred, and of course had dementia, and that was a very sad kind of thing. Let's roll. We're gonna skip this next segment that's on the program because I know Randy was very adamant about wanting to participate, and he's the one who came up with that idea. So that's fine and dandy. Okay. But let's talk about. We looked at a Jerry Lawler Jack Brisco match from 1974. Let's roll the film forward and let's go into 1981. And at this point in time, of course, Memphis Wrestling, the Memphis territory, is run by Jerry Lawler. And in 1981, former champion Jack Brisco came back to the Mid-South Coliseum. And we have a video of that, Adam, coming up.
Let's take a look.
Match, but it was one of the doggonedest fights I've seen in a long time. Let's take a look at it.
How many announcers
Say that again, Chris. Sorry, I hadn't had a chance to adjust the volume. Go ahead.
I said, how many announcers today use the phrase doggonedest?
All right.
Lance, he's priceless, man. He is just priceless.
Well, that's what made Lance your living room grandfather through the TV there.
100%.
He could create language as he went. It's sort of like Bobby Bowden saying "dadgummit," would not cuss in public.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like at Lance's funeral when they had that whole poster board of all of like the little Lances.
Jack Brisco grabbing the leg of Jerry the King Lawler early. Manager Jimmy Hart at ringside giving him the go, go, go.
Now remember, this is after Hart had broke his leg and come back.
Holding that leg on a rope.
And Briscoe's known for the spinning toe hold and figure four. Well, he's working the leg, which is the old school
This match
mindset.
set up by Jimmy
You
Hart.
said this is 81, Michael?
Jack Brisco
Yes, this is 81.
$10,000 unsigned.
And Jimmy Hart's managing
If
Jack,
he
so
could
Jack's
re-break
working heel
Lawler's
here.
leg, he got the signature. If he doesn't, he gets nothing.
Notice the reaction of the crowd that differs from the 74 match. Flash forward to this one.
Regardless of
Watch
any
watch and see, but I would be
stipulations,
surprised if this one wasn't
to Lawler.
like more of a Jerry Lawler
These two have had
influence
some
match.
classic confrontations, and what a main event on our championship wrestling on this particular program. A right hand to the jaw. And Brisco, a single leg dive, takes Lawler back down. Dumps him in the middle of the ring and hooks that toe hold up on him and leans back on it.
Calhoun, the referee.
Brisco drops with
You know,
the elbow.
it's
Lawler
very
has got
interesting to
mount some
watch
kind of
Jack
a move.
Brisco. When you watch him carefully, you really see a lot of the
Lawler may
amateur
be obsessed
style
with the idea
in
that
what
his
he
leg
did.
is going to get rebroken and has forgotten his wrestling ability. Jack misses the knee.
Look at that crowd reaction on the front row just from Jack missing the knee drop.
Lawler going after Brisco. And the crowd saying, break it.
Got him jumping out of his seat just by him diving on his leg.
Lawler continues to drop with elbows. Brisco gets to the
1981,
ropes, and
Frank.
that'll call for a break. Nope. Lawler jerks him off that rope. Brisco gets him out of it. Shoots a jab. Brisco knocks him backward, slams it into the ring post again. And a third time, the referee hops out, sends Brisco back into the ring. Hart whaled him with a walking stick.
Jimmy Hart was a natural.
Hart hit Lawler just then, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Lawler's managing Brisco in this match.
Ah, here he goes. He missed him. 1, 2, 3, and Lawler got him. Brisco was going for the figure
How many times has Lawler rolled somebody up like that? Not very many.
Just a little small package out of that hole. Now here comes your afterbirth.
And Hart coming after Lawler as Brisco held him. Lawler ducked.
Lady on the front row.
Lawler rattles him with a cane. Nails Brisco. Brisco back in the ring. Lawler ready for him, but now he's got to look out for Hart. Hart turned around and came back.
This must have been a 2 out of 3 fall match.
Brisco going after Lawler.
There's only about 30 seconds left. I don't know if you may be right.
And Lawler went right back to his favorite, and that's that big right hand.
Yeah, I guess that was just part of the afterbirth. So there you had it. Obviously a Jerry Lawler called match.
No question. Polar
Right.
opposite, pretty much from what we saw earlier. 7 years apart.
Got some good reaction from the crowd. Frank Seaton saying the small package was one of the greatest pinning combinations of all time. Still is. They don't use it as much, but I agree. And that Hart was the greatest manager of all time. That could be debated. We've talked about that many times. I think he's a great one. Don't get me wrong, but there have been some great ones out there.
Probably, maybe arguably best in Memphis territory.
Yeah.
I thought Hart was a better manager in Memphis than he was before he went to Cartoon Land, I call it.
That happens to a lot of them up there.
You know,
My argument would go way back 20 years or 30 years before with Saul Weingroff, because Weingroff had hellacious heat is the only way I can describe it, in all throughout the territory. I mean, and that was in the era where Germans were still mistrusted, and him being quote unquote a German in his persona. I don't know. I know Hart had heat, but Hart was a little guy. He was sort of like a flea on a dog. You sort of wanted to always scratch him off your back, whereas Weingroff was just evil. And that would be the two words I'd probably use between them, but they were both great in what they did in their time.
Absolutely.
All right. So as we continue, we're an hour plus into the show. Let's go now to a segment on October 10th. Well, actually, Lawler returned on October 10th. On December 11th, 1977, in front of 10,800 plus at the Mid-South Coliseum, Jerry the King Lawler, in a match against the World Heavyweight Champion representing the National Wrestling Alliance. And this was after the split. And I think this may have been the second time Harley had come to Memphis since the split in March. Harley Race against Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah, I think this is about a 11-minute clip, and these are highlights.
Right now, let's go to the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum for the action between Jerry the King Lawler challenging Harley Race for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Where's that brick wall matches in front of?
Has passed. 10 minutes to wrestle.
Is that Tommy Marlin?
yes.
9 minutes to go. 9 minutes to go.
Lawler's
We
asking
only got
Lance for
9
time,
minutes.
Steve.
The PA system has gone out.
Yeah, that's definitely Tommy.
So, Michael, did they announce the time back in the day so add legitimacy to the contest, or did they announce the time so the wrestlers would know when to go home?
It was double function because it let the wrestlers know how far along in the match they were. If the promoter says, okay, you're going to go 20 minutes, okay, I'm going to need 3 minutes for the finish. So you gave the multiples in 5-minute intervals. If it was, you're going to go a little over, we want a 20-minute match and your finish is a minute, then at 20 minutes you started to come home. You started to start the finish. And so it was the wrestlers could hear it. And it was also, I think, gave a very good indication, especially on a 60-minute time limit match, of how far along you were in the match. I think it let the fans keep up with the progress of the match as well.
Takes him down on a jackknife. 1, 2, kicks his way free.
Yeah, when you had somebody making the announcement, like Mr. Hoffey, is almost just like the NWA official making the official announcement.
Yeah, I was probably 30-something years old before I realized Mr. Coffey didn't work for the NWA.
No.
I mean, I'm being serious. Like, I never knew that.
Well, but that's just because there's one of those things that just added to the legitimacy of it, it felt like.
Oh, yeah. But my friendship with Randy, he never smarted me up. Never. Like, never. Till I started doing this show, we had some conversation. I didn't know.
Well, you know, and it's just a simple analogy, but it's almost like watching a magic show. If you found out how they were all done afterwards, you'd be like, damn, I like the better one, I didn't know.
We've had that talk, Michael. I know it feels like I do. It was much better in the kayfabe era.
Oh, yeah. And like Michael has said, Michael, you, like many announcers, I'm sure preferred just to go out there and call it cold without knowing what was going to happen.
You know, Coach and Adam, I use that philosophy even to this day, calling high school football. I've been doing ARAB high school football for 28 years. I have been to a practice at ARAB high school less than 5 times in 28 years. And I tell the coaches, when we get a new coach, I let them know right on. I'm saying, you're not going to see me on Friday. You're not going to see me, but on a Friday evening, or maybe for coaches' breakfast on Friday morning, maybe one other time in the week if I need an interview from you. But you're not going to see me on the practice field. You're not going to see me watching or because I want to call the game as a fan watching the game. And I think if you're too inside, and I know some people that go to every practice of every, a great example when Mike Keith was the voice of the Titans, he was at every practice. Now, it may be a little different in the pros, but in high school football, I want to be, if we're going to run a trick play, by God, I want to be surprised by it.
Well, you want your reaction to be similar to that of what a fan's reaction would be.
See, and I think that helped to get the fan reaction. When Michael's reaction or Lance's reaction is organic, then the crowd's going to respond accordingly.
And that's one thing I always loved about Jerry Jarrett. And when he would give you the card for TV, he might tell you, okay, this guy's going over, and it's going to take this many minutes, and I want you to emphasize this point or that point. But in the main event, the majority of the time, he would say, now there's going to be an afterbirth, or there's going to be, we got a thing that we're going to do after the match is over, so be aware. And that would be all I would know. You know, did I know they were going to be thrown on top of the desk or thrown into my lap or, no, I didn't. And I like that. I think you guys hit it on the head. If it's an organic experience that I'm feeling and watching for the first time and being surprised, the verbiage I use and the enthusiasm I portray is going to be real. There's nothing put on about it.
You know, it's like I would say, I'm sure Randy's experience with that was when Savage did the pile driver through the table, and Randy said, "Oh my God!" You could tell that was Randy's real gut reaction to what he was seeing happen.
Just as a note, Coach, I'm sure you're probably following this, but the Red Sox just beat the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, first game of the Wild Card Series, 3-1.
Always good when the Yankees win.
Lawler thought he had it won, and I guess Race had his foot on the road.
Yeah.
Regardless of how, we'd like to see Lawler, the world heavyweight champion. Harley Race's legs were well over the ropes.
You're hearing Lance do a little home cooking there.
Yeah. And to not be a Memphis guy does Harley not look like he could have been a Memphis guy?
Only 4 minutes in time.
What'd you say, Adam, for him not to be a Memphis
For
guy?
Harley to not be a Memphis guy, does he not look like a traditional Memphis guy?
100%.
Oh, I agree too.
He kind of looks like he's built like Al Green or Don Green.
Wow. Yeah, he looks like one of those
ballroom brawler,
He's also got a Sam Bass looking haircut in this particular match.
I think our videotape will clearly show that Race was outside the ropes throughout the entire count. Lawler falls back. Race.
This one of the he didn't do what I thought he was going to do. The Harley knee drop to the forehead is one of the most amazing wrestling moves to me, because he did it so well. It looked like he crushed him.
Referee notifying Lawler and Race at 3
it's
minutes.
amazing how he can time it and
Look at Lawler.
deliver
When it's
and harmless to his
a
opponent.
simple, effective move like that you can easily identify
Race
how
catches
much
him,
that
zinging
hurt.
left hand.
Yeah.
Takes a right from Lawler.
These are two of the best punchers in wrestling.
Neither one of them has near the sting in the punches that they had earlier. Lawler coming off, he was going to hit him with a broad arm and put him up in the 42nd row, but Ray simply ducked over, and Lawler went straight over his back.
In the 42nd row, which is still closer than section 400 at WrestleMania.
And about $800 cheaper.
Neither wrestler.
They're tired. They're tired right here.
Lawler
Chris, you probably answered this, so,
time is called out.
and I think you have before. Minus the gas over there.
But whether the
Ticket,
body's
go,
gonna
hot
be
dog,
here,
parking. How much were you out typically?
Harley Race
Oh, the first time I went,
shakes the jackknife.
my papaw spent less than $20 for us to
Count
get
one,
2
two,
tickets,
and Race once
2
again
hot
uses
dogs,
the
and 2
ropes.
sodas.
Lawler
That covers the
throws
gas
his
For us
too?
back
to spend
inside.
about halfway up
Race
the
takes another
Coliseum
one
in
from Lawler.
74. It's less than $20.
And Race kicks out this
But I
time.
mean, $20 back then was a lot of money.
But again,
Lawler goes to the ropes.
I think back then the promoters were
This could be his
cognizant
last
of who the
chance.
fans were
Two.
and what they could afford.
And up comes Harley
Whereas in
Race's
this day
left
and
shoulder.
time, I think the promoters are out just to get the biggest dollar they can.
Really wanting
And again, for
severely.
WrestleMania, it's become such a worldwide function. How many Saudi princes are going to pay 80 million, or excuse me, 80,000 to come and be part of that?
1 minute to
I
go.
dare say there's a few.
That and a WrestleMania once a year. This, you're trying to get somebody there once a week.
Unbelievable. Just
I mean,
like
I know
this.
I'm personal friends with 2 people who could afford that.
Unless Lawler
And
gets in here,
80,000
he
to
has
them
no
is like
chance.
$8 to
1,
us.
2, and Race kicks.
I mean, I know 2 people in my whole life.
30
like that.
seconds to go.
Good point there by Frank. Lawler was at least 10 years younger than most of these guys.
With the
And
elbow.
the experience level makes it look like he's right there with
Got
him.
him in the air.
I see Chris Gale said hello.
Lawler
Uh,
got
yeah,
What a great musician.
Yep.
Great musician if you've never heard him.
jumps
Great
at Harley
musician, great
Race.
friend of the
Count
show.
one.
Check out Chris Gale all over
go.
social media. Fantastic
And
guy.
that's it.
Good to see you, Chris.
The 60-minute time limit has run out, and the bout will be a draw.
Fans are on their feet, ready to go now.
60 minutes to a draw.
They're throwing paper cups in the ring because they didn't get a finish. It's like the Cowboys and the Packers Sunday night. People were mad.
1-hour match between Harley Race, the world heavyweight champion, Jerry the King Lawler, the challenger, and it went to a draw. Just how close Lawler was to being the world heavyweight champion. We got a lot of action. You can hear the crowd outside. They're stirred up capacity, and we're going to be back to join that action right after we take time out for this.
The way Lance said that, it's almost like he was at the building.
Yeah. I'm wondering where that painted break background was. I've never seen that before. Yeah.
Only time I've seen something similar is the thing they did on Memphis TV in the loser leave town match in '83. They did it again in Jerry Jarrett's house at a big dining room table. They did the same type deal. I'm wondering if that wasn't in Jerry's house.
Don't know. I don't know. Did Lance go up to Jerry's house that often? I wouldn't.
I don't remember Lance coming to Jerry's house or coming to the office, and he may have. Don't get me wrong, but I'm almost thinking that that's just some painted wall close to where they were, whatever they were shooting, what video they were shooting.
Yeah, whatever building or thing that they may have been in, because I think Lance lived in Memphis, right?
Oh yeah.
No far from Deering, I think. Yeah.
Just FYI, and being a baseball guy, I'm wearing my Reds jersey. The Reds are playing the Dodgers tonight, and the starting pitcher for the Dodgers is for the Reds rather, is Hunter Green, who grew up in Los Angeles and went to high school and graduated from where my two kids graduated at Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks. And he's starting tonight at Dodger Stadium, the first round of the wild card, and the Dodgers lead 1-0 in the first. So anyway, but I saw him earlier, and I didn't realize, I saw the pregame interview and didn't realize that Hunter Green was a HD or an NDHS graduate at Notre Dame Sherman Oaks, the Notre Dame Knights. But he is, and it's great. And that's also for old baseball fans. Black Jack McDowell played there. Buck Martinez played there. There was some Tim Foley. It's a great baseball school. But anyway, off the wrestling subject, but I'm wearing a baseball shirt. I'm sorry. I gotta throw that in there. As we continue, next up is a video highlights of on December 18th.
Yeah, I think, Michael, somebody asked earlier when we was watching that first video if that was when Valiant hit him with the bottle. I believe that what we just watched was the week before.
That is correct. That set up a return match because it went 60 minutes draw, 60-minute Broadway. So the following week, they came back with the same match, Lawler versus Race, and I believe it was no time limit, no DQ.
Yeah, and this
was
on
Sunday, back-to-back Sundays. So that tells me that Memphis State was playing basketball.
That, or it may have been the only time that they could get Race, but you're probably right on the basketball thing too, I would think.
That and the fact it's also the Christmas season. This is, we're talking a week before Christmas.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say we have some, now, I don't know if this is the highlights or the entire match, but this is the return match the following week. Jerry Lawler against Harley Race. And this will be on Sunday, December 18th, 1977.
It's just the one that's 3 minutes and 41 seconds, Michael?
Yes, sir. 3:48.
Okay, I think this starts with Jimmy Valiant interview. We'll take a look.
But I'll get you. You can't hide. You can't hire enough bodyguards. You're mine. You're handsome Jimmy's. I promise you, King, you're dead. Turn it off, Daddy! Turn it off! What do you think this is, a freak show? Turn it off! When here's Lawler got a pile driver on him. He drives Harley into the canvas. This could be it. But the referee, Thomas Marlin, was knocked over when Race tried to kick his way
another
out.
world title match. Tommy Marlin's
Lawler
referee.
trying to get the referee in a position to count.
You see Dave's head in the
This could
corner
be it.
for a second. I think it was zoom out.
1, 2, and Harley kicks him. Where does he get it from? Once again, Lawler with a pile driver. No
I
disqualification.
assume Harley worked this area for the whole week that week.
Close to the rope. The referee
Yeah, I think this was a thing where in 77, I was in Nashville at the time, and I remember Harley making a shot in 77. And in fact, that was when I had the picture with him and my son. That's when handsome Jimmy hit him with the bottle.
Yeah.
I'm not believing this. He nailed Lawler. And then, I just can't believe it. Harley Race grabs his arm.
He cut his shoulder.
Here comes Norvell, Dundee, Eddie Marlin, referee Jerry Calhoun.
Jerry Jarrett getting in the ring.
Yeah.
Lawler. ringside. What bedlam? Lawler.
Somebody once told me how they gimmicked the Coke bottle for this, and I can't remember exactly what was said.
You bake them in the oven.
That's what it was.
Harley Race, who had been pile drive. The time where it was stopped was 21 minutes and 15 seconds. Lawler was...
Bill Dundee told us that, Michael, the night we said it, the room at the hotel.
That's where it was, Coach. You're absolutely right.
He talked about that.
He has not been here all evening.
The only other time other than this I ever saw it used, they had a prop from a movie set that was made out of candy. It was a candy, a green candied Coca-Cola bottle, and it was basically sugar candy. But he whacked him with this one, and the glass actually cut him.
Well, I remember that with the cuts in the scalp. How do you ever forget something like that when a guy does something like that to you?
You don't forget something like that. I'll think about that every time I see Jimmy Vay, and someday I'll return the favor.
I understand. That one ended in a brawl, and speaking of brawl.
What year was that, Mike?
1977.
So
it was December, right before Christmas of 77. So I guess Lawler had a patch on his head over Christmas time.
Yeah, so that would have been Channel 5 studio.
Yes, sir.
It only drew, I'm being facetious.
Only.
It only drew 96.64 compared to 10.8 the week before. But as Michael said, it was the week before Christmas. So people were going to see family, shopping, whatever.
And
so it only drew 96.64.
And a Sunday show, right?
And a Sunday show. That's correct. That's correct. Wow. That's some outstanding highlights, though. When you talk about Lawler, and we started the show talking about Lawler battling heavyweight champions. And, of course, the best was yet to come when he battled Nick Bockwinkel and Curt Hennig. And, I mean, you think about all the championships matches that the King had for the World Heavyweight Championship. Those were NWA highlights. Right. But, again, what a storied career. How many other wrestlers can have gone through that many heavyweight champions in a career?
Right.
Well, one thing, we talked about them devaluing the world championship belt, and this won't be a popular opinion maybe among our people that watch us, but King contributed to that because the NWA title was sacred, the AWA title, and when he became the unified world title, he lost it to Eric Embry and Snowman and whoever the hell else. And I'm sorry, but that diminished the title to me, in my opinion, compared to what wrestling had been. Yeah. And that's hard for me to say because I'm such a homer for Memphis and the King, but it didn't have when you said unified world title match, it didn't have a significance.
And let me lend a little background on that, because when we did that tour, if you would, of the whole area, and it started in Dallas and Memphis and Nashville and Louisville and Evansville, the whole idea was to build up credibility of the fact that you had three wrestling companies coming together with one championship, right. WCCW, the AWA, and of course the CWA, which later USWA. And it was to be one, and Jerry envisioned it, and I think he sold the idea to Vern, and of course, I think Fritz at the point would go along with anything because he needed something to build his crowds back and all that after all the family tragedy that had occurred and taken a lot of the shine off of Dallas wrestling. And the idea was really good because then you would have the WCW champion at the time. You would have the WWF champion, and then this championship, which was unified, where the others were territory champions. Right. This was going to be more of a quote-unquote world title. But I think shortly thereafter, Fritz got out, was disinterested, sold to Jerry, got out, And Vern wanted the power, wanted the title back in his territory because he got or may have already had, but was having part of the ESPN contract, the early ESPN contract when they were filming those shows at the Showboat in Las Vegas. So a great idea sort of became secondary. And so here's Jerry Lawler with the belt and Jerry Jarrett with the territory and the King with the belt. And not a lot of other people in other territories were going to buy into it. So the basis of it, the base of what it was established for, disseminated. And so the belt, like you said, became a toss around.
Yeah,
there was a show where he came out with all 3 belts and explained that actually. But it just never came to pass.
Yeah, because kind of like you said, I think the whole deal there was Lawler talked about how the WWF champion only wrestled in the WWF, and the WCW champion only wrestled in WCW. And then, like you say, he didn't win the NWA title, but then winning the AWA title from Curt Hennig in '88. And then, like I said, then having the match with Kerry Von Erich with World Class. And to your point, Michael, by late '89, World Class was gone and USWA came in. And I think it was like the first week of 1990, it was USWA. And so then, like you said, you have the unification of, Lawler having the AWA belt from the Super Clash debacle, right? And then World Class and CWA forming USWA. So you've got that. And you remember a real big deal. They had that open door policy and all of that. But by that time, legitimately, USWA was like the 3rd largest promotion. And so then without a World Class and with AWA basically gone, you weren't going to get buy-in from WCW or WWF. So you're kind of like an island to yourself with this unified title. So all you could really do is then it kind of ended up being more of a territory title, even though it was a unified world heavyweight title.
I believe, if my memory serves me correct, and right around 90, 91, I think Jerry went down to Puerto Rico and wrestled one night for Carlos Colon with that belt. And I don't remember the exact ramifications of it. I know that they didn't drop the belt down there. And there may have been a couple of other shots in smaller territories. One of the things, as you were talking, that made me realize the NWA belt was on Ric Flair at that time, and Flair went into WCW, and so the NWA belt became morphed with the WCW title. And at some point, they quit calling it and put made a new belt, a new gold belt. And they, I guess, retired or just never mentioned the old NWA.
Right.
14 pounds of gold belt, which my good friend Conrad Thompson has at his house over here in Gunnersville. And that to me was a shame because the lineage of the NWA belt went back into the 30s.
Yeah, and I don't think it really came back into prominence until TNA, right?
Yeah. Was it Dan Severin that had it then? I know Dan had it for a long time. I forget about it, but you're right. But Coach, that would be like taking a championship trophy from the old Southwest Conference, and we'll bring it back around to what we started talking about for the Arkansas Razorbacks, taking that championship trophy when they won the national championship, and President Nixon awarded in the trophy, and that'd be like saying, "Oh, well, we're not going to pay attention. We were never national champions unless you're national champions now under the NCAA." I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right, 100%.
All right. Well, you guys agree too much. I like to get into fights and arguments. I'm
the one that said that it diminished the title. I threw a little shade at the situation.
Yeah. Chris is the one shitting on the unified title. I'm surprised we don't have people coming in here talking.
Yeah, I figured people were coming after me. Thomas said, good point.
Frank said they made the WCW belt look like the AWA belt. I never liked the new WCW belt.
Yeah. Chris is on his mark. I love it. I love it. And Chris, I to be honest with you, and I'll say this, and I'm not going to say football anymore. I want Arkansas to be good in the Southeastern Conference because there are so many good relationships and rivalries. I love Arkansas playing Tennessee. I love Arkansas playing Ole Miss. I love Arkansas playing LSU, and I love it when Arkansas plays Alabama. But I'm with you. I hope the name I'm hearing though for the head coach at Arkansas, and I heard it twice on Sunday, and it makes sense. Well, I heard two names: Brett Lashley from SMU, because he's an Arkansas former quarterback for the Razorbacks, and Matt Campbell, the head coach at Iowa State, who I think coached at Arkansas under maybe Houston Nutt.
I don't think Matt Campbell's ever been here.
He's not.
I may be wrong. But now Matt Campbell would be a good hire, in my opinion, not as good as Sumrall or Dillingham. But Rhett will be 5 and done, just like the Warriors for him.
Wow.
In my opinion. I mean, he's already lost twice at SMU, and Arkansas fans are delusional enough to think they're supposed to win. I have family members that think that, and like we've been in the league since '92. We've won it how many times? 0.
Yeah, you were in. I went to a SEC championship game. You guys were in against Florida.
They were in it. They didn't win it.
They didn't win it. Yeah, that's a good point.
They did it 3 times. They didn't win it.
That was under Houston Nutt, right?
Correct. So is it 0 for 33, people? I mean, I've went out on a limb. Never. That's when they'll win one. Never.
See, I'm not a huge sports person at all, but I kind of hope they go with Bobby Petrino.
I'm a Bama football fan because of Coach Bryant, so I watch them because they're in my home state. But anyway,
I'll have to ask you: do you think them going to Rocky Top Saturday, that the Tennessee could be on a edge of an upset?
No,
no chance.
No,
we can't stop anybody, man.
Okay,
3 of us with 8 guys out of the cafe can score at least 1 touchdown.
Michael, or I'm sorry, Chris, answer this from Frank Seaton because I think you pointed this out earlier.
Okay, what's that? Ours has more money than anyone. Okay, so Jerry Jones isn't involved with the NIL because he's NFL guy. He's not giving tons of money unless he changes. The Tysons are invested in basketball heavily. We have one of the top 5 NILs for basketball in America. And then Walmart, a lot of people don't know, but a lot of those Walton family, they went to Mizzou. Yeah. So they invest in Mizzou's program.
So actually,
I don't advertise this, but my stepbrother's first cousin is the CEO of Walmart.
Wow.
So
there's
I don't
another
tell people that. I have a little bit of knowledge of what goes on there. So.
And is the other big family up there the JL Hunt people, the trucking company?
Yeah, JB Hunt.
JB Hunt, yep.
And they're big supporters of the baseball program.
Right. Gotcha.
So you've got some big companies up there in that area, but not a lot of football people, right?
Unless they change. They've indicated there's going to be some change in that background with some money people, and good for them. Good for them, but I could be wrong. They may prove me wrong. I've been wrong before, but I've been in sports all my life. I don't see it. So,
well, Coach, if I start texting you when I hear things, I know you'll text me back. So, because you're in that neighborhood, buddy. Let's finish up. We've got a few more minutes here, and I think what we've got right now is 4602. Well, actually, this is Cards of the Week. So let's see if we can do this. 4640. And let's watch this. This is Liveable, Arkansas. This is your neck of the woods, Coach.
Holy cow. Can you imagine putting this on a flyer nowadays?
Oh, my goodness. I just saw what you're talking about.
Wrestling. Oh, my goodness.
And this has got to be, what, 50s? 1950s?
60s, maybe.
55. September 55.
So is it only advertising 2 matches, or was there only 2 matches?
Well, there were 2 out of 3 falls, both of them.
Yeah.
So there could have been six matches, but yeah, Prince Pullins and Mark Scott, and then Jackie Fargo and Herb Welch versus the Blue Infernos. Michael, any idea who the Blue Infernos were?
Boy, back in the 50s, I'm really not sure. I don't.
Number 1 and number 2, clearly.
I don't know who were under the hoods back then. That was before I got into wrestling. I would have been 4 years old right there.
25 cents for the kids, 75 cents for the adults. That sounds incredibly cheap, but man, 75 cents in 1955 was a good little bit of money.
But not as much as $80,000 in 2026.
No. Not quite.
Isn't that crazy? We've seen a card where tickets are $80,000, and we've seen a card tonight where a ticket is 75 cents.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, 25 cents for the kids. Wow.
And I dare say Fargo, Herb Welch, and the Blue Infernos were probably as big of a draw in Blytheville, Arkansas in 1955 as the top baby face and heels are for the WWE in Las Vegas in 2026.
Here's an interesting fact. Here, they're advertising this first match, which you could never do today for obvious reasons. But none of those folks were allowed to come to the matches.
Wow.
Only white people were allowed to attend the matches back then.
Was there not separate seating?
Not in Blytheville, Arkansas, I don't think there was. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Not from my ancestors growing up, not far from there. I would not think so.
Wow.
Not in 55. In the 60s, yes. After the civil rights movement, yes. But not in 55. I wouldn't think so. So that's very interesting.
I'm going to use the vernacular of the card. Were Prince Pullins and Mark Scott both colored?
Yes, because they wouldn't have been allowed to wrestle each.
Right.
They weren't.
Right.
It's like the same reason they had Negro League Baseball.
Right.
Same concept. They wouldn't let them compete, which is sad, but that's a whole another subject.
Well, when you look at it, that was 75 years ago, and how far the world has come in 75 years. Nashville Municipal Auditorium on September 16th, 1974. This is card number 4602.
Yeah, it says it may have been typed wrong in the notes. The card says the 18th.
18th, okay. 8:30 start time. Nick was starting later back then, and this is September, so I guess you're still in daylight savings time.
Yeah.
But we'll go from bottom to top, and by the way, tickets available Tuesday and Wednesday at Shire's Jewelry Store on Church Street. If you don't know diamonds, know your jeweler, and if Harold says it's so, it's so. Harold Shire at Shire's Jewelry on Church Street.
Ringside $3.50, general admission $2.50, children under 10 $1.50.
And this was back when Channel 2 was WNGE. They were owned by the General Electric Company. So it stood for Nashville General Electric. Channel 2 out on Murfreesboro Road. They had 10:30 wrestling on Saturday morning. And, of course, Nick Goulas and Roy Welch promoters. Okay, opening match was Steve Kovac against Duke Myers. And Steve Kovac, an outstanding Canadian star back then, against Duke Myers. The second match, and again, this was when Luthez needed money and was working for Nick, and it was Luthez against Don Green. Again, that would be a great match to watch, even in this day and time. There was a tag team match with Charlie Fulton and Bobby Main against Johnny and Ricky Fields. Now, I'm wondering if Johnny and Ricky Fields were the sons of Don and Luke Fields, or Don and Luke Fields. I don't know. I'm assuming there's a family connection there. And of course, I think the Fields in some way, shape, or form were also kin to the Welches and the Fullers. Also, it was Tommy Marlin and Bobby D versus Fuller and Main. Now, Tommy Marlin and Bobby D at this point in time were referees, and this was a special grudge match between the two referees and the heels that the heels thought they'd been screwed over, so they bring it back for a grudge match with actually the typing on here is it's Tommy Marlin versus Bobby. All right,
Tommy Marlin versus Bobby Lee was separate from the Charlie Fulton Bobby Main against Johnny and Ricky Fields.
Right, because on the notes it says it's against them, but no, Tommy Marlin and Bobby D were referees at the time, and they were battling each other in a grudge match. Then a bare knuckles match in action was, let me see if I can read this.
Stan Siegel, TV personality, was
Stan Siegel, TV personality, was special referee. Stan Siegel was there in Nashville. In fact, I think he was on Channel 2. Manager Sir Clements took on Dennis Hall. Dennis Hall, of course, lived in Chattanooga at the time. Then in a tag team match, you had Don Kent and Chris Gallagher with Jim Kent taking on Tojo Yamamoto and George Goulas. An explosive tag battle, falls count anywhere in the building.
Wow.
And then you had two main events. The first main event, as they love to call it, the NWA Southern Heavyweight Championship on the line, as Jerry the King Lawler was the champion back on September 18th of 1974 at the Municipal Auditorium in Nashville. He took on, from Detroit, Michigan, Bobo Brazil. And in the main event, and by the way, that, we run forward 20 years. And again, you have a Caucasian wrestler against a wrestler of color in the same ring. You could not have seen that in 1955.
And one of the main events, nonetheless.
Indeed. And the main event this is the first time that the Sheik was working with Nick. This was a no time limit, no disqualification. And I think this is the match that we've seen here on Talking Memphis Wrestling that was filmed in Louisville. They had it the next night in Nashville as well, with the Sheik and the fabulous Jackie Fargo, with manager Creechman managing the Sheik. So that probably
manager Creechman was, I think, Eddie Creechman, who later on was the Grand Wizard.
That's correct. That is correct. And of course, I'm sure that was a bloodbath from start to finish. So that's a big card. And ringside tickets, again, were only $3.50. Amazing. All right. Next card we have to review, and we got about 15 minutes left in the show here, is $45.99.
This was a Tuesday night card at the Coliseum.
And Mid-South Coliseum on a Tuesday night. Wow.
That'd be during Mid-South Fair time back then.
September, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mid-South Fair's in that time of year, I believe, or it used to be.
This would have been a week after Labor Day, so I think you're right, Coach. I think it's probably about the time. Although I think the Mid-South Fair is going on this week in Memphis, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, bottom to top on this one in 1980. The opening match was El Mongol against Tony Broyles.
Yeah.
The Mongol, it's El Mongol, but there's a typo on this. It says El Mongo, but it is El Mongol. Tag team match, Sonny King and Ed Flukert. Don't say that real fast. You'll get in trouble. Against Carl Fergie and Jerry Bryant. But Fergie and Bryant, they teamed quite a bit. I don't know to what modicum of success, but I know they teamed quite a bit back in this period of time, back in the Memphis area. Then you had Killer Carl Krupp against Tojo Yamamoto. And Carl Krupp, of course, the German star that I think he made his name up in the Midwest, up in Michigan and Minnesota, taking on Tojo Yamamoto. Superstar Bill Dundee against Dr. Bill Irwin. Notice he doesn't have that superstar moniker. I'm thinking maybe this was before that got pinned on him. But Dr. Bill Irwin, he later wrestled again for Jerry when he bought the Dallas territory. Bill was in Dallas when we went down there. Southern Tag Team title match, Tommy and Eddie Gilbert, father and son, against Frank Savage and Tom Stanton. I don't remember that tag team, guys. Do you, by chance?
I remember Tom Stanton, but I do not remember Frank Savage.
No, I don't remember Frank.
Okay. And then in the return Southern Heavyweight title match, Handsome Jimmy Valiant with Jerry the King Lawler against Tommy Rich with Jimmy Hart. So Lawler is seconding Handsome Jimmy at this point. And that was for the Southern Heavyweight title. I'm going to think at this time, did Rich have the title?
See, it's a return match. What year?
This was in 70, what is it, 76?
I'd say it was in the 80s.
This was 80. It was 1980. Yes, sir.
Because Lawler broke his leg in 80, so Billy Robinson was champion temporarily. And then Dundee did have the name Superstar. He was given that name by Big Bad John in 76.
Yep.
Okay, it just left off the card, I guess, then. But a return Southern heavyweight title match had some Jimmy with Jerry Lawler against Tommy Rich with Jimmy Hart. And the main event was for the CWA World Heavyweight Championship. Billy Robinson was the champion against Lou Thez. That would be one to watch on film. I would love, even though these guys are up in age at this point, I still think that would be a very, very strong match.
So, question about the CWA title. Does anyone I only remember 3 CWA champions. Superstar Billy Graham. The King beat him in Rupp Arena. That's how they put the belt on Lawler. And Lawler broke his leg, and Billy Robinson. Did I miss somebody? It just kind of went away. It just kind of, if memory serves me, I could be wrong, but if memory serves me, I don't remember it.
I want to say that Lawler won that title back after he recovered from his broken leg, but I don't remember that title being on somebody else unless it was a quick turn for a week or so, to do a shot through the territories and be over and done with. Mm-hmm. But I think you may be right. I don't remember them. I don't remember Bill Dundee having the CWA. I may be wrong, but I just don't remember it. I wonder if there's a history online of the CWA championship.
I seem to kind of remember that because I think it was kind of almost like how the USWA heavyweight title was kind of right under the unified title. I think almost the CWA heavyweight title. I could be wrong. I seem to remember Dundee having it and some others, but it may have been a different title.
I bet Randy, if Randy were here, I bet he could tell us more on that.
Randy's probably cussing us on the drive home right now, running down the list of who all was the champion.
Yeah. We should know that. We should have prepared.
Right.
Randy, I apologize. My age is showing, I guess. But anyway, that's pretty much wrapping it up for what we have on the list. We left off a segment that Randy is very interested in. And Randy will be back next Tuesday, and I'm looking forward to him being back as well as you guys. But we're going to do a segment about Jerry the King Lawler and Jeff Jarrett's biggest Memphis opponents. And I think he wanted us to each think about that and give our opinions. So we will be prepared for that next week as well. And also next week is a big week for wrestling fans all over the country, and there's some big shows. In fact, I think the 6th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken, of AEW is between now and then, so that may give us something to talk about. Anyway, closing thoughts, Coach. I really enjoyed. Yeah, I loved your opinion. You need to talk more on the show. I need to shut up, and you need to talk more. You're better at this than I am.
I don't think so. You lived it. I just got to watch it and study it as I've gotten older. But I always enjoy being on. You and Adam are consummate professionals. RH is great. I think that I wish we could get the word out to people that love wrestling that maybe lived in another regional territory. I know I'm prejudiced, but I watched Mid-South, I watched Southeastern, I watched Mid-Atlantic, I watched Florida. And I mean, Memphis during its glory days, and I always say that the golden age to me was 74 to 88 when Lawler won the title. It just, to me, after he won the title, it just never was the same. Because I guess we were all chasing it with him for all our life. My entire childhood was spent chasing the world title with him. So when he won it, hell, I thought I won it. I mean, we all did. We all went crazy. Like, oh my God, our guy finally won. Anyway, I think people could really learn a lot and see every big name, every one of them. Now, let me rephrase that. Bruno Sammartino was a big name. He wouldn't have drew crap where we're from. But all the big names who went on to the modern WWF/WWE all came through here. And you can see them in all kinds of incarnations. And then, like, you think about the Rock and Roll Express started right here. Go down to the flea market and buy some bandanas, Ricky. Tie them on your arms and legs, and y'all are the Rock and Roll Express, and boom. And Ricky still works. Still. today.
Still has those same bandanas.
I always like it when they said that Ricky and Robert had more sex going to the ring than most guys did after. Because the women loved them, man. They couldn't get them off of them going to the ring.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Adam, your thoughts? I love your studio, man. Great debut for your studio.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Like I said, I'm just glad to finally actually have it. And I know people probably see me looking over here. I've got all of this over here, and then the actual control room for everything that I'm doing is actually over here at this desk along with my work computer. So kind of got the whole setup here. But no, I think, Chris, kind of to your point, you're right. You know, we kind of had the chase for the championship for so long. And then when Lawler got it, kind of so many things happened there. Lawler got it in 88. And then, you know, World Class goes away. AWA goes away. That title gets consolidated basically into a company title. And then so I think during the whole tenure of the USWA, it was just kind of more or less, what could you do with that unified title then? You know, you weren't going to go to WWF or WCW with it. So who was there really on that AWA or NWA level? And I think you were just kind of, all you had to work with then was other people within that territory. And so, but like you said, unfortunately, to someone who had seen him chase that world title and finally get it, then it was just basically a battle of whoever was the top contender in the USWA at that point. And obviously, I don't think that was the plan for that title, but it's just kind of how the wrestling business had evolved or devolved to that point, to where that's kind of really all you had to work with. But I think what still kept it special, though, is that then USWA kind of became known as, you know, like a WCW and WWF both would send people there. And we've said this a million times, Lawler could have a wrestling match with a broomstick and put the broomstick over. Just Lawler's ability to work with those inexperienced people still gave us awesome championship matches. But to your point, though, unfortunately, the chase was over at that point.
Yeah. Well, and I'll add this, and he's not on tonight, so I can brag on him. RH, I give RH tremendous credit. Yep. What he did with Monday Night Memories, and then bringing back Power Pro as a territory, and as a TV show and a territory when it had all gone away, and he made all that work and did a fabulous job. I mean, he didn't get enough credit for what he did during that era when it was not easy to do any longer.
Right, and to even have a successful inter-promotional feud with Smoky Mountain during '95, you know, that was probably one of the last times you saw something like that happen. And Michael, you remember they kind of tried to do that in '97 with ECW.
Indeed, they did. And of course, we had the Texas-Tennessee rivalry prior to that coming out of Dallas. Yep. And that sort of set the tone. Coach, I think, and Adam, I think you made some great points, and I'll just expound on what you said, is that you lived it. And as fans, you lived it. And as somebody that even worked with it, we lived it. But we had such a deep appreciation for it and a deep affection for it. It's ingrained. It's in our bloodstream. And that's something that I don't think wrestling fans today have. They have passion, don't get me wrong, and there's a big fandom, but I don't think it's the living and breathing it the way that it was done and you did it back then.
Well, I say these two things all the time. Blake Shelton has a song that says, Hollywood was fake and wrestling was real. And that's, when we grew up, it was. Movies were movies. John Wayne never died except like in 2 movies, but but the next movie was pretty much the same movie. But the other thing I always say, and this gets me still, the Monday Night Memories will always bring tears to my eyes, and I'm 59 years old, because nostalgia from when we're our childhood touches us all. And when I hear that, I mean, I was blessed to live that, and it's very meaningful, along with thousands of others.
Very well said, Coach. Very well said. Well, that's going to wrap it tonight. And guys, thank you for holding me up because I was sort of thrown in this seat. And when I came on, I said, I feel like Lance Russell when I would substitute in for Lance Russell, and they would always prop me up with some great matches and some great stars, and that's what I had to prop me up tonight. And you guys did a fabulous job. And Adam, great job as always. Glad to have you on camera. And Coach, you know how much I respect you and the great job you do, and what a passionate fan and friend of wrestling you are, and a great sports figure. You and I swap text back and forth on other sports. By the way, the Dodgers are in a home run fest. They just hit 2 off the Reds. They had one earlier. It's 5-0 in the third, and bye-bye Hunter Green. So anyway, I got to live that for the next hour and a half. But other than that, next week we'll be back with more Talking Memphis Wrestling. Randy Hales will return, and the boys will be back in town. So on behalf of the coach, on behalf of Adam Dunn, Chris Ellis, I'm Michael St. John. So long, everybody.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales is now streaming live on Fun Media at fun927.com, and is always on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, and at tv5wrestling.com.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales.